I would like to welcome everybody to the third webinar, online webinar on the Tuesdays of Innovation. This session this afternoon will be about eco-innovation and the circular economy. And this will be, as it is already on the screen of Javier, the presentation of a special issue of the Journal of Innovation and Economics Management, which was coordinated by, I'm sorry if I pronounce not very good your name, Javier Vance and Ángeles Pereira from the University of Santiago de Compostela and Blandine Laperche from the Université du Littoral. I would like to welcome special international audience, especially from that there are a lot of students from different universities, especially from the University of Parthenop, Naples, from the University of Nancy, from the University of Hohenheim, of course, University of Littoral, and the INS GSI from Nancy. So welcome to all. I would like to say to the students, if you want to ask questions, you are welcome to ask questions. You are even, I would say, have some priority to ask your questions. So please use the chat. If you have any questions, we will make them, we will make sure that you will get any answer. And how to say, if there is problem of expression, you can even ask your question orally. So let's start by the presentation, I guess, by Javier, or is it a three-hand presentation? I don't know, by Javier and Ángeles and Blandine, who will present the overall issue, and then we will have the presentation of a paper given by Josep, Pinyol, Alberich from the University of Exeter, which will present a paper called Motivations of European Union Member States to Adopt Circular Economy Strategies Towards this Critical Geopolitical Approach. So Javier, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Miguel, for your presentation, and I will start by thanking the Research Network on Innovation for organizing this online event. I would like to, this webinar will be useful for all the attendants from the different countries. And I will start with some preliminary ideas, highlighting that the special issue of this Journal of Innovation, Economics and Management devoted to eco-innovation and the circular economy has an origin in the 2020 because at that year we had organized a conference, an international conference in Santiago de Compostela on innovation and circular economy, organized by the ICEDE and the Research Network on Innovation, but that in the end was celebrated online because it was just the beginning of the COVID-19. After that, a long peer review process of evaluation and selection of the papers for this special issue has been done. And in the end, we have selected the 7 papers we have included in this issue. The topic was eco-innovation and the circular economy. And the reason for that is that eco-innovation and circular economy is a new and emerging topic in the different disciplines, and is very important for the future sustainability of the economy and the environment. The objective of the conference and the main objective of this special issue is to contributing to the goal of real environmental sustainability, curbing climate change, reducing consumption of non-renewable resources, and eliminating waste. This requires a major transformation of production and consumption, and therefore requires changes and innovation in all dimensions. Innovation in eco-design, technology innovation in products and process, innovation in the use of the stock of goods and infrastructures already in use, circular business models, social innovation, innovation in the role of the state, innovation in policies, in the end, innovation in the global model we have. In short, it requires systemic innovation, major innovation, and myriad of minor innovations. In fact, the international institutions had paid attention to this agenda, and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and the New European Green Deal incorporate a nice music on that. But the real change is still limited and slow by now. The long economic crisis and the low growth economy, the coronavirus and the war can drive us into a very large recession. To overcome this challenge, we require important innovations. And maybe the eco-innovation and the circular economy are important answers to that. In any case, many relevant social scientists are saying that we need more deep changes, maybe even a change in the socioeconomic model. Anyway, in the end, we realize that the circular economy is a buzzword as also eco-innovation. And that is a paradox because all people is talking about circular economy and eco-innovation for the future, but the real steps in the circular economy models implementation and the changes in this direction are still really disappointing. Then this special issue want to deal with this paradox and sorry, and want to address whether and how the various forms of innovation, the technological, but also organizational and social innovation could offer solutions to lever the obstacles and facilitate the necessary change in our models of production and consumption. I would like to point to many ways in which eco-innovation and circular economy are related. Innovation can boost the transformation of economies toward circular economy, whereas the circular economy can be a lever for eco-innovation, responsible and sustainable innovation. The circular economy targets several pillars, reducing extraction and exploitation resources, sustainable purchases, eco-design, industrial ecology, economy of functionality, responsible consumption, extension of the useful life of goods by reusing, repairing, remanufacturing, and recycling. At the same time, innovation is multiple, not reduced to technology, new products or process, but also deal with organizational, institutional, and societal changes. In fact, a significant part of the literature on circular innovation draws on previous studies on eco-innovation developed since the 90s onwards. And at the policy level, too, the continuity between European Union eco-innovation programs since the late 90s and the more recent European Union circular economy programs is outstanding. In fact, eco-innovation may contribute to the circular economy in different ways. First, scholars argue that eco-innovation offers the chance to obtain a double win, since it helps to improve the environment and at the same time, it offers opportunities for business to gain a competitive advantage. Second, eco-innovation may lower technological obstacles toward the circular economy. The design of eco-innovative solutions should be at the heart of any circular economy project. On the other hand, we must be aware that eco-innovation may also generate rebound effects. For this reason, systemic and complex thinking is necessary to understand the role of eco-innovation as an enabler of the circular economy. On the other hand, the literature on the topic has evolved from a narrow approach to a wider and more systemic approaches. The initial literature on eco-innovation in the 90s had a clear technological orientation. And pipe technologies, then clear process technologies, and finally product eco-innovation as a solution to the problems of environment externalities. A double wing view of eco-innovation was in place at that moment. Good for these changes, this innovation could be good for the environment and good for business. Later, the organizational eco-innovation as eco-industrial parks, closing cycle between industries, institutional factors that enable eco-innovation at the level of companies, industrial symbiosis, recycling, etc. And nowadays, the central issue has become the need for a more sustainable model of production and consumption as a whole, which implies a systemic innovation. And this is precisely the role of eco-innovation for circular economy, in which this special issue is focusing. In reality, the circular economy implies a broader and deeper set of changes that affect the whole economic system, production, consumption, and the roles of game, of course. There is a wide variety of concepts and proposals for the transition to the circular economy. There is not only one. The different proposals ranging from the most technocratic formulations to proposals that imply a profound transformation of the socioeconomic model. In this special issue, we focus on eco-innovations in all forms that are considered both as a step towards a circular economy, but also as a possible solution to obstacles faced in the transition process to the circular economy. We are aware that the company barriers and the macro barriers can be an explanation for this circular economy paradox that I talked before. a set of technical and organizational and institutional eco-innovation can, in the end, offer solution to ease this transition path towards a circular economy and a more sustainable world. In order to go ahead and to explain more in depth the contents of this special issue, I give the floor to Ángeles to explain the contents of the different 7 articles we had included. Then, Ángeles, when you want.
Okay, thank you, Xavier. I would like to take this opportunity to invite all the attendees to read the selection of the papers of this special issue, which we found very interesting. I just will present some of the basic ideas contained in these papers. So the special issue starts with 2 papers focused on the circular economy at the European level. And the first one, by Michel Mongo and colleagues, aims at determining the causal relationship between the CO2 emissions and sustainable resource management, and also looks at the effects of sustainable resource management on CO2 emissions, both in the short and the long term. Their results show that in the long term, circular practices tend to reduce CO2 emissions, while in the short term, the effect is the opposite. Then we have another paper by, I cannot pass the slide. Sorry, Xavier, I don't know if you can go to the next slide. So we have the next paper, thank you, by Josep Pinyol, who is today with us. So he will explain the main ideas of his paper, in which he addresses the circular economy discourses in the European Union. And then we also have in the special issue 2 more papers focused on eco-innovation. First one, the paper by Gerardo Brear and Leandro Llorente, analyzes the eco-innovation activities developed by the Argentine industrial sector according to their potential to contribute to the circular economy. Based on their results, they propose a circular hierarchy that gives priority to innovations that involve slowing down resource flows by extending the life of products and their parts over those activities that are only aimed at the closing of materials. In a different way, Karen Hinojosa also addresses the role of eco-innovation, but she presents in her paper the profile of the Spanish eco-innovative companies, which are in general medium-sized companies. They are oriented towards both national and international markets and belong to the manufacturing sector. The research also sheds light on the main driver for manufacturing and construction companies, in which cooperation with internal and external agents, R&D expenditure and machinery expenditure become relevant. The paper also highlights differential barriers across the sectors. Then we also have a paper focused on the factors driving the profitability of eco-design among European and Canadian companies. The research conducted by Marie-France Vernier and her colleagues shows that regulation and the market turn out to be very important aspects that determine improved financial profitability in companies that apply the tool of eco-design. Therefore, from their point of view, they conclude it is important to adopt appropriate policy instruments to promote eco-design. Then we have 2 last papers that focus on some organizational and technological tools which are aimed at reducing the difficulties of the transition towards the circular economy. The first one, by Fedwa Kazmi and colleagues, examine the hypothesis that innovation spaces such as fab labs, makerspaces, living labs, etc., can drive eco-innovations and thus facilitate the implementation of circular strategies. Indeed, their conclusion is that this type of innovation spaces can have an impact on several aspects, such as fostering sustainable experiential learning, providing methodologies and tools for the co-creation, and also supporting sustainable smart cities, new sustainable business models, and sustainable entrepreneurship. And finally, we have the last paper by Ping Krom and co-authors, where they examine through a qualitative case study the role of digital platforms to support industrial symbiosis strategies. And the paper reveals that the factors that act as obstacles for these platforms are that the exchange of byproducts is more difficult than the sharing of underused assets due to the different degree of standardization of the traded materials and goods and the very specific requirements related to the quality and quantity of the resource made available. So based on the results, after identifying the main barriers that affect this type of platform, they suggest criteria to build a viable industrial symbiosis enabled platform. And these are, in very a brief summary, the main ideas contained in the papers of this special issue about eco-innovation and circular economy. And as I said at the beginning, I really recommend the reading of the full papers. And I now would like to give the floor to Blandine Laberge to conclude.
So many thanks, Angeles and Xavier. So the beginning of our issue was to put forward this circular economy paradox. We made a paraphrase with a very famous paradox in economics of innovation from Robert Solow, who put forward this paradox and highlighted the slowdown of productivity in the US in the 70s and 80s, despite the diffusion of information technologies. And he said, he wrote, sorry, we can see the computer age everywhere, but in the productivity statistics, it was in 1987, and we use it like a wink of an eye, I would say, to make an analogy with the circular economy, since we can state that the circular economy is everywhere in policy agendas, as well as in strategic plans of companies, but can hardly be found in the reality of practices. So that was the beginning of the special issue, and then we wanted to show how innovation, and especially eco-innovation, could be an ease to this transition process toward the circular economy. So when we talk about eco-innovation, it is not only product and processes, but it is also so not only technological or technical innovation, but also organizational and social ones. And in fact, even beyond the role of innovation to facilitate this transition, we also want to highlight that real systemic change is needed. That is what said Xavier at the beginning, change in the rules of the game of the economic system. So the special issue highlights this idea and opens very important questions that are not solved in the issue, but are subject of discussion and further research about important questions like what to produce, for what purpose, how much to consume, and how to use the goods that are produced, how to manage the distribution of this use within society and in the global world. So these are the last words of this introduction, and hopefully they will open up new issues and research for the future. but not to lose more time, to give more time to our speaker. I'm giving the floor to Josep Pinyol to present his paper, and also I would like to thank my colleagues for this interesting work we had together. So Josep, perhaps now you can share your slide.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I think that Javier has to, yes, good.
Yeah. So, is it now?
Yes.
It's not full screen, but we see your presentation.
Do you see the whole presentation or the?
It's not full screen.
Full screen.
No,
Okay.
it's not.
It's not. Yeah, I want to stop share and I have to share the other screen. Is it now?
Very good, perfect, yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Blandine and Javier and everybody for inviting me. So this paper is about the motivations of the European Union members to adopt the circular economy strategies. And I'm adopting a circular geopolitical approach. Well, first of all, my name is Josep Pinyol. I'm a PhD student, last year PhD student at the University of Exeter Business School, but I'm also engaged with ABIS, the Academy of Business and Society, which is an NGO that brings businesses and business schools together. And my work is done within the context of a Marie Curie INT called TreeTrace. And yes. So first, I will start introducing a bit what's a circular economy, on what we know about the motivations of the circular economy. Why are we doing this at all? Introduce the geopolitics as an academic framework, and then talk about the research, what I did, how I did it, what were my findings, and the concluding remarks. So first of all, I guess most of people already know what's a circular economy, but it's still nice to start from a common base. It's this idea that is to keep the resources within the economy as much as possible through recycling, through reusing, through refurbishing, and so on, in order to prevent waste, the generation of waste, but also in order to minimize the demand of raw materials. The circular economy also implies not just how we manage materials within the economy, but also how we change the economy and how business models have to change. For instance, from a consumer to user perspective, how we invent new products that are designed to last, new materials that are supposed to be recyclable and that last longer. The circular economy is a concept that was first published in a book. In the third chapter of this book I'm showing you, The Economics of Natural Resources and the Environment, and it was chapter 3, although you can pretty much argue that there are a lot of precedents to the circular economy. Space to Earth, biomimicry, industrial ecology, cradle to cradle, and so on. Yet, the fact that we put these two together and we use this as an economic concept in academic terms starts from the 1990s, so it's not that old. Yet the uptake is very recent and has been brutal. This is a picture that shows how many papers use the keyword circular and economy in Scopus, and you see the growth is more than exponential, and it started growing after 2000. It really started taking off after 2006, but it really accelerated greatly after 2015-16, after the European Union policies. The first kickstart started with the Chinese circular economic policies, though. And you find it everywhere. As Blandine, you said before, it's in the strategies of mainstream businesses. It is within mainstream policies as well. So big corporations like Unilever, IKEA, Michelin, to say just three, have circular economy strategies. And it is a goal, but also policies. The Chinese circular economy economic strategy is the first that we managed to date, dating back from 2008, I believe. Although the debate is, I think, in China, they started talking about the circular economy from 2004, 2005. the European Union started talking about the circular economy, and the first action plan is from 2015. And then circular economy policies, European Union, where we are. In the case of the European Union, the first time we have a policy document that wasn't withdrawn came from 2015, December 2015, the Circular Economy Action Plan, which derived into a circular economy legislative package, mostly passed in 2018. And now we are in the second action plan, second Circular Economy Action Plan. That was published on March 2020, and the Circular Economy legislative package is very new, comes from the end of April of this year, although there are still laws that have to pass, that have to be passed, and many of the things published are still proposals to be discussed. Yeah, what do we know about the expectations of the circular economy? So this research is from Alberich 2017 and talks about the expectations of the circular economy at the European Union. So these policies, why are we doing them? 4 expectations. First, we expect to create this perfect circle of slow materials, where we are able to produce materials, we use them, we dispose them into recycling bins, and then we can bring them back to the industry so we can remanufacture again and so on. Or not just recycling, also repairing and refurbishing. A shift from consumer to user, to grow through circularity and decoupling. So we see the circular economy as a strategy to further enable growth. And finally, a solution to European renewal, which means more competitivity for the European industry. Why the approach of geopolitics, which is not that common to see? There are 2 ways to see geopolitics. So that it's a concept that you can see it often outside of academic circles. One approach is classical geopolitics, but that is more deterministic. And you have maybe seen this book of Tim Marshall that is now very popular within bookstores, Prisoners of Geography, but also other books like Robert Kaplan, and narratives that are very within think tanks or strategic centers, even not academic organizations, but still private research organizations that see geopolitics as something, that's how geography influences politics, and how geography is a key actor that plays a role within the way we take political decisions. The other is the completely and diametrically opposite vision, which is critical geopolitics, which is much less deterministic, and it focuses on the issue of perception. The Earth is inherently extremely complex, so it's not, the problem is not how the Earth is and how the geography shapes us, but how we perceive geography. So if under the classical geopolitical approach, you would see that there's this sentence that we are prisoners of geography. In a critical geopolitics perspective, you'll see that you'll rather say, oh, we are rather prisoners of our perception, or rather, if we are prisoners at all. So this is an approach that also we see that geopolitics is socially constructed. That's the first thing that we need to understand. Interpretations are promoted from powerful spheres, and they orientate political agendas and they influence decisions. So how we make decisions is based on how we perceive and understand and make sense of the world. And also these perceptions and discourses, at the same time, not only they don't only justify, but they also shape these political agendas. It's not only that political agendas shape our perceptions, because then we promote certain discourses, but the other way around as well. It's difficult actually to establish a causality. So understanding geopolitics from a critical perspective is very useful to understand and uncover political agendas in a way that from only discourse analysis you may not necessarily do. So you can see those pictures are some examples. The first 2 pictures come from Looney Tunes and are cartoons from before World War II. The first is a cartoon explaining how life in Africa was, and it was this small story that it seemed innocent, but at the same time it conveys a lot of ideas on how people in Africa were underdeveloped and justifying ideas like colonialism. The second one is a cartoon justifying World War II and how there was this dad born within, from a black egg, and it was very bad, so they had to kick him off. But also narratives like the Great Game and the need, how Britain was justifying the further expansion in Asia, because otherwise those lands will be taken by Russia, and so on. So just to summarize, from this perspective, we assume that the Earth is inherently complex and there's no such a thing as a perfect perception of the world. So we have to understand how we make sense of the world and how we perceive it. The research is that precisely so. What is this perception that we can analyze through discourses? And this analysis can be done in theory from many levels. You can make an analysis of video games that talk about wars to understand how political agendas are being reproduced, but also within narratives among far right, or how racism is being built within the West, and also how policies are being justified, like the Muslim ban from Donald Trump is an example. But anything can be an example, because this approach is valid for many instances. In this case, why geopolitics in the circular economy? First, it has not been done before, which is one of the first things when you do research, but also because it's important to understand how stakeholders, powerful stakeholders, interpret their geographical context to explore how the circular economy is understood and justified. Second, we can scrutinize why the need of the circular economy is constructed it's not just the mere narrative of what the circular economy does, but what's beyond that. And understand the problem and setting is also very useful to understand what policies are likely to emerge, or what policies do we prepare for. So in this case, I'm focusing on the European member states, and I'm focusing only on those member states that publish the National Circular Economy Strategy, which I start before saying my results that there are limitations with that, because there are plenty of policies and plenty of information within those other member states. Yet you don't have the same level of information, and information that is equiparable in the same level. So that means, for instance, in Belgium, we have strategies at the regional level, which of course, they provide different pictures of what I'm looking for, and it doesn't allow comparability in the same sense. Unfortunately, Luxembourg published its circular economy strategy when this paper was under review already, so it was too late, and that's another limitation as well. So in total, we have 12 member states that have had national circular economy strategies when this research was done, and the analysis of it. So what's the results? I divide the findings into 6 elements. First, the economic ambitions. Let's talk about research and innovation, resource supply, environmental, social, and political ambitions. When we talk about economic factors, actually, the picture is quite of an unanimity. You don't have strong differences among member states. Everybody talks about how the circular economy generates this expectation of further growth, more jobs, new business models. So that's something that they frame as something good for the economy, more competitivity because we reduce production costs, because most of the resources in Europe, they need to come from overseas. And these aim to adapt to a future context in which we expect the production costs to increase due to a increasing resource demand. Yet there are some divergences. Scandinavia and the Netherlands, they barely talk about jobs as something necessary. Instead, they focus on how the circular economy can be used to increase exports, whereas the blue countries, Poland, Spain, Portugal, and Greece, they talk about the circular economy and they place a lot of attention at it as a strategy to generate jobs, which you can see the economic needs and the economic agenda across the EU member states is diverse, and these different discourses reflect this diversity. Second, when we talk about research and innovation, and I was genuinely surprised when I was doing this research and coding all the documents and then putting all the codes together, making a grid among member states and actually find such patterns. Because you see this map that I showed you before, that it was showing a north and south and east repeats over time. When we talk about innovation factors, most of the circular economy strategies coincide. that the circular economy is something that has to be driven by business action and technological change. That is the way we pushed for the circular economy transition. Yet there's the member states in blue, the countries in blue, become, or they have the expectation to become leaders in the circular economy transition in terms of innovation, in terms of producing the right technology to do so, whereas the red countries are silent. Spain is this pinkish color because it's also silent, but they have this policy ambition to become leaders in water recycling technology, which makes some sense given the issues of water scarcity in Spain. Yet the rest, you see this picture where there are some countries that have the policy ambition to become leaders, some others do not. They stay silent. When we talk about resource supply, that I was also personally surprised when I came across that one as well. You have two batches of countries and the Netherlands in the middle. Scandinavia sees all the countries, they coincide that reducing demand is a policy ambition per se. Yet Scandinavia sees the circular economy not as a way to reduce imports or to protect itself from the global market and resource scarcity, yet the opposite. They see the circular economy as an opportunity to export more resources by themselves. Yet the rest of countries, all in unanimity, they agree that they have to reduce imports and they see their dependence on the global market for resources is a hazard that needs to be mitigated. The exception is the Netherlands, that says both things. They don't see themselves as exporters of biomaterials. It's a small country after all, and with a strong population, high population density, yet they see themselves as future exporters of resource efficient technology, whereas they see also the danger, the need to reduce imports. The Netherlands is the most explicit strategy in this sense. They made, actually this map is made by the European Commission, but they copied and remade it in better colors, listing what are the dependencies and the critical mineral materials that they depend on, that they come from overseas, and lack of supply from those materials can become a challenge for their economy. And they came with this very explicit map. I'm not going to detail it one by one, but you see how we have dependencies. That's not only in the Netherlands, that's all across Europe. We have dependencies within many countries in the world for critical materials. So the circular economy for them is seen as a way that through recycling, through urban mining, through reducing the use, but also more reusability, we can mitigate, not eliminate, but mitigate and reduce this dependency. Environmental context. All the countries coincide that the economy is the cause of the environmental crisis. So there's this acknowledgement and this alignance of recognition, but also in the policy agenda, that they expect the circular economy to be the pathway that builds this sustainable economy, yet they can prevent this crisis. All the countries in blue, they recognize, that's the only difference, they recognize that the circular economy is also their strategy to meet the Paris agreements and the Sustainable Development Goals. So it is a contribution towards meeting a global agenda, whereas Poland is silent on that. It's important to distinguish silence and opposition. So Poland is silent in these terms. That doesn't mean that they necessarily oppose it. They just don't mention it. When we talk about social factors, most of countries, for some reason, I don't know why Spain is silent on social factors. When they talk about the circular economy, the only thing that may slightly refer to people is the creation of jobs. That's it. Whereas all the countries, they talk about the need to create jobs that are not just jobs, but they are quality jobs and they are local. They don't force people to migrate within the country or outside to other countries. They might stay in their provinces. Poland, Greece, and Finland, they go a step ahead and they also talk about these jobs and the need for the circular economy to create a new generation of jobs that is inclusive. So they aim to fulfill a social agenda with that. And Greece, Poland, and France, also they talk about, this is quite interesting, they talk about the ability to promote the circular economy, but to make this concept compatible with something more ambitious that they need to build. And they talk about the need to build a social economy. So in order to create social and local opportunities, but to have an economy that is not just about growth, which is surprising because if you look at the color, the political color of the cabinets from these countries, they rather are conservative countries, but those concepts, those ideas, they still manage to sleep within these circular economy strategies. Finally, when we talk about political factors, there is countries agree that the circular economy is not just a way to change the way how we manage resources, it's also a way to create an aligned European Union economic agenda. So all the member states of the European Union have shared economic goals and they can coordinate their policies. All the countries except Finland mentioned that. And the countries in Greece, France, Denmark, and Finland, they talk about the opportunity to push for a promotion of the circular economy. So that means promoting change in the global supply chain in European terms and with European technology that can after be exported. So those are all the findings. As a concluding remarks, the circular economy and the analysis of all these narratives of the member states provides some room for common ideas among member states. First, we are able to meet the Paris agreements and meet the sustainable development goals, growth, job creation, and also prevent an environmental disaster. That's everybody is on that page almost. Some countries don't mention, but there's no opposition for that. Yet there are also divergences. Different ambitions on technological development can be an issue because then we have states that are promoting and leading this innovation where other countries do not have the ambition to become leaders on that. We have different visions on resource security. So some countries, they want to increase their exports. Other countries want to reduce their exports and policies to do that. Yet it's to be seen how those two ambitions can be complementary to each other or they can clash in the long term or mid-term. Diverging visions on social inclusivity. So we have countries like Spain that are silent on that, and other countries, they are very vocal. Poland and Greece, I was surprised because they are far right and right-leaning governments in these countries, and yet these ideas to create social inclusivity matter a lot for them. And finally, we have diverging ambitions on technological development, which, as I said before, that can lead to a diverging European Union. So to wrap up, what did the approach of critical geopolitics contribute to what we knew? I told you we had 4 big ideas and what were the expectations on the circular economy: the perfect circle of slow materials and flows, shift from consumer to user, new, more competitivity, growth, and decoupling. We know more. This research allows us to see how the circular economy is a strategy to protect the European economy for resource insecurity, because in Europe we don't have the resources to develop the economy in the way we are living now. Second, it is a strategy to coordinate European policy and to bring all these different national strategies together, to influence the supply chain in global terms and promoting European technology as well, and also to meet global goals and global commitments as sustainable development goals and the Paris agreements. As another conclusion is that there are differences among member states and how the circular economy is being seen, but also these narratives that are being built can be challengeable from a scientific way, and there's plenty and amounts of research that contest the feasibility of these ambitions. The mirage of infinite growth, this is a very long debate in academia that probably you're aware of, but also the inability to really decouple GDP and environmental impact, because all of member states, they really want to maintain growth and they want to use the circular economy as an enabler for that, but also the physical impossibility to create closed loops of materials. I mean, we know that there's the second law of thermodynamics, and this ambition is just not going to happen, yet it's part of those narratives. Finally, when I told you that one of the common agreements is that the circular economy could be promoted through technological change and business action, which can be quite dangerous because we have the rebound effect. So if we keep promoting efficiency, we expect the narratives say, well, we expect a reduced use of resources and to increase resource security because of efficiency policies. But those policies depend, or they put most of the attention on technological change and business development, which can be dangerous because we can see strange developments in the economy. Well, we can see them already now. So how are we going to manage our resources and these materials that are strategic? How can we prevent a rebound effect? And just think, what do we do right now with these strategic materials and how we use them in a way that it's difficult to see how we can use them in the long term when if you look at the production and how many devices are appearing because those materials become cheaper, and I challenge you to Google the Internet of Things and just see all the extra products that become in the market, that keep appearing in the market. So what are we going to do with these strategic materials, and how policies that are based only on technological development and business action is going to preserve these materials and maintain resource security in a context of a rebound effect? Also, I would like to end with a not so pessimistic note. There are also good things that appear. So some concepts like the solidarity economy and the social economy emerge in some policy documents, which is positive. It's a positive note. Also, the approach of critical geopolitics apparently provides new insights and uncovered new gaps in the circular economy agenda that we wouldn't have observed otherwise. And finally, I would like to remember that this is based on a discourse analysis. We are not analyzing what are the policies that are being implemented, nor what are the actual things that happen on the ground in the economic level and what happens to those materials. So there is a gap with that. Yet narratives are important because they help us foresee what we can expect on these future policies. So this is it. I think I've made my 30 minutes. I didn't extend myself too much. And please, if you have questions, feedback, or anything, let me know. And yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Josep, for this wonderful presentation in time, despite the this disturbation. So we have some questions on the chat. So maybe we could start with the chat, and then I see that there are persons that who I think want to ask questions directly. So Blondine has one: is there no possibility to coordinate all these at the European level? I guess all these initiatives or policy instruments. I don't know exactly what is this, and what could be the priority measures. Blondine, if you want to complete your question directly or make it clearer, or Josep, if it's okay for you.
About the European coordination, the European institutions, they publish their own legislations already, and they coordinate how the legislative package is translated from the directives to Europe, member state policy. And they coordinate as well how regulations are implemented. That's it. They do not review what are the political ambitions of each of the member states, because of course they are free to do that. But I don't think it's not within the power of the European Commission to do that. And I think this convergence in the agenda is something that may be built over time as we share policies, like the European policies are shared by the European Union. But some of these ambitions will diverge because countries have different goals and different interests. And there's no willingness to coordinate that, simply as that. And the second question is this physically impossibility of creating closed material loops discussed in some European political arenas? Yes, I have. That's based on that. I can answer this question, but this is based on another research that I have done. I was conducting interviews among policy makers and politicians themselves about that and asking about the rebound effect, and the answer, well, we don't know enough about it. Yeah, there's not enough research to make policies to prevent the rebound effect. And when talking about the closed loops, I think it's a piece of information that is being omitted for now. And I think there's a third message.
Okay, so there is a question from MF Vernier, but maybe if you want to ask the two questions by oral or...
Oh, yeah, I can do it orally. Wait, I have to first.
Okay, so is the circular economy a chance for Europe to exist? I can't speak. Okay, to exist from a political point of view. So
oh yes, I succeeded. Sorry.
Okay, good.
Hi to everybody. So thank you for your presentation. It's very very interesting. So I have two questions which are the opposite of each other. First, we can say maybe that the circular economy project is a chance for Europe to exist because it's an instrument, it's a tool. So Europe is existing because it's trying to implement Europe. So it's a political tool. And on the opposite, maybe because Europe is taking that in consideration, it's maybe a chance for the circular economy to be implemented because they put a lot of energy, money, investment, and so on. I hope I'm clear.
So the first is
Thank you.
On the circular economy and how the circular economy. Sorry, can you repeat the first question again? Hello? I can speak.
Marie-France, can you repeat the first question? I guess she's still.
Okay, it works. Okay, I go ahead. So I'm sorry. So I was saying that maybe from the European point of view, the CU, the necessity to implement circular economy or the ambitious for circular economy, it's a chance for Europe to exist because they have to talk together on the environmental consideration against pollution. So it's a way to show that Europe is strong, they're able to be committed in environmental consideration. This is my first question.
I think the circular economy, I mean, the Europe politically existed before the circular economy, and there were a lot of common challenges that kept the European Union together. The circular economy is kind of it's not something new because this is an old story and how the European member states have traditionally promoted sustainable policies, because Europe is all together in the same context where we are a continent without many natural resources. So that already dates back from the oil crisis from the 73, and we had a lot of challenges that required a common answer. So that's it's not that the circular economy is creating this need for coordination. This need of coordination existed before, but the circular economy provides a new opportunity to strengthen this unity, and that's maybe that coincides with what you are thinking of. It brings the European Union together. Yeah, it brings the European Union even more together for
Okay. And the second question is the opposite. Maybe for the circular economy, for the believers in circular economy, the existence of Europe and the willingness of Europe is a chance for the circular economy, because you have many states together will try to be coordinated to implement circular economy. So maybe Europe is a chance for circular economy.
I would agree. Yes, because the fact that we are doing this circular economy transition policies together brings a stronger momentum. And I think in the first slide is when I showed this graph where you see this extraordinary spike on papers being published on circular economy. This big spike coincides with the publication of the first circular economy strategies in Europe. So yes, the European Union has a power of influence in the world. It can influence global supply chains because it's a big market, and many producers all around the world will change the way they produce if Europe coordinates itself. So yes, it's an opportunity. Also, it is China though, because they are the first to become circular. Somehow I don't understand why they were not that influential to other countries as Europe. But yes, I believe that you're right in this comment, that the circular economy is being benefited from the unity of European policies.
Okay, thank you very much.
Javier, do you want to add something?
Hello, Josep. Just a question. It's a question on the actuality, and maybe it's not so scientific in some way, but it's a question to put the relationship between two important phenomena in the present days. That do you think that is some relationship between the difficult to go ahead with the sustainability and circular economy agenda in Europe and at the general level, and the changes in the dramatic changes in the geostrategic shift that we are living now with the trade war between the States and China, and the breaking of relationship and the unstable relationship between Europe, States, and Russia. Do you think that these new geostrategic strategies from the States and Europe have some relationship with the difficulty to go ahead with the sustainable and circular economy agendas?
Thank you very much, Javier. Yes, there is. Actually, the European Commission accelerated the development of the EU Green Deal and the development of green energies after the war between Ukraine and Russia, because, and explicitly because of the war. So this relationship is I think there's a researcher called Frank Bierman, and he's actually one of the leading scholars on the Earth system governance. And he was describing Europe as the accidental hero in environmental terms, not because Europe is a good actor that is aiming for the public good or so on, but because they lack resources. So they are in the need to develop renewables in order to develop some autonomy, some level of autonomy in energy-wise, but also in resource-wise. So these policies that you say, well, the current war between Ukraine and Russia and the support of the European Union to it, but also the war between US and China, this is something that Europe has been preparing for a long time. And that's why these policies dated from 2014 and 15. But before 2014, we had the resource efficiency roadmap from 2011. And before that, we had the Lisbon strategy that was a failure, but the ambitions were the same as well, because these threats are not new. And whatever conflicts we are having now, the conflicts may be new, but the problem was set on the same space for a long time. In the case of so we have this both in energy-wise and resource-wise. But it's not only, we cannot reduce all these policies only to China or Russia and the dependence on energy. There is also a concern about the environmental situation, which is seen also as an existential threat for Europe. So we cannot, it's true what you said before, to summarize, it's true that those conflicts play a role and they accelerated such actions. But it's also true that there is concern for what happens to the environment because the European Union is situated in planet Earth. So if this planet fails, the European Union so it sees itself in some danger.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then next, Ilya, do you want to speak out your question?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josep, for the presentation. I have a question and an observation. My question is methodological. Pardon. So, who are the stakeholders who were questioned? Who are they? And my observation, when you began the presentation, I expected that you will deal with motivations, circular economy, and what you presented. Pardon. What you presented are expectations of people asked about what the European policies of circular economies will bring to them. So I think there are differences between motivations to adopt circular economy and expectations from the policies that exist. And I think the main motivation to circular economy is necessity now, because the lack of resources, because of war, because of the actual geopolitical context.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ilya. First, on the question, who are the stakeholders? In this case, the member states and their official documents. So I wanted to restrict it to this way. The reason is because those are the most powerful stakeholders are the ones that actually shape European policy. But also, I wanted to keep it to official documents because otherwise you may get lost within the narratives within political parties, and it complicates it's not only that it complicates the research, but it also makes the issue of comparability less reliable. On the observation, I think it's a good observation. The difference between motivation and expectation, it depends on how you use the definition, but I would say expectation is what you expect to come from the policy. The motivation is why you do the policy. So in this case, it's difficult to, when you talk about the actual motivations, you need to conduct interviews and ask who did what to actually, why did they do the interview? So its necessity is not it is very deterministic to believe that there is this inherent necessity. Yes, there is, but also this necessity is constructed. It's socially constructed because we believe that we don't have resources, but we do have a market, and we do have a market. I mean, not a market. Sorry, we do have plenty of resources right now, even in the context of the tensions that we have with Russia. It's much more about what we expect to need in the future and where we put our urgency on. And that's the construction of a political agenda. That I'm not saying it's not real, but it's not only a necessity that it comes out of the reality, but those needs are being constructed by the policy agenda and because of narratives as well. So that's why I believe that the analysis of narratives are valuable in this case, because we have plenty of necessities that are also objectives that then they are not attended, and other necessities that are good. So I think this is the value that discourse analysis provides in any research.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if I answered your question or if it was this direction of the observation.
Yes, thank you.
Blandine, do you want to complete, or is it questions? Or?
It is a question, Mireille. Josep, I had a question related to the place of regional development the link between circular economy and regional development in European policy agenda. The question is linked to the fact that usually circular economy can be implemented at the level of companies or at level of local levels. It's easier to develop, for example, symbiosis in cities or in industrial parks or things like that. But when I read your paper, in fact, I saw that the issue of regional development does not appear quite well. It's more about macroeconomic aspect and less related to regional dynamics. Do you confirm this, or do you have another point of view?
Yeah, I think you're quite right, actually, Blandine. I believe that when they will the necessity to transition to a circular economy, they mostly refer to macroeconomic aspects, but they also talk about the need to satisfy local demands. And some member states talk about the need to develop regional policies and to help develop regions that are less developed. I think Poland, but also Greece, were quite explicit in this sense. If you look at the policy, that they see this as a national need. They need to develop the economy of small islands, but also more rural territories. They mention this, but they mention it as a social need. That's how it's framed.
So perhaps it is a part of the paradox we highlighted before. We talk about circular economy, but the implementation is another matter. It's an aim, an objective, but in the concrete achievement, which is usually at locally addressed, it's less studied or less taken into account.
I think there is need to deepen into the study of what happens on the local ground, and I think this is a fertile avenue for future research, because not all countries place emphasis, and not all countries are sensitive to what happens on the regional sphere, yet it matters a lot. Some countries do stress the need to develop the regional economies, and to not only develop the economies of their big cities. But it matters. And I believe that when we talk on the implementation side and what happens in practice, that's a critical aspect. But when deciding national policies, it may not matter as much, but I think that can be an element that changes across countries, because each country has its own context.
Javier?
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that this is interesting to realize the absence in the things that are lacking in the European strategies, and I agree that the regional and local aspect is one of these. But I also would like to ask you about the opposite side. Then is in the some specific elements or strategies, some specific developments in these strategies about the globalization and the problems of international transport and the consequences of the so dense traffic around the world by plane, by maritime ways, and the transport is some specific developments, or what is the importance of these aspects in the strategies, in the different country strategies?
Yeah, thank you very much, Javier. That's when they talk about globalization, they mentioned that the dependence from global markets is a danger. That's all of the member states except for the Scandinavians. They talk about that, but they don't talk about they don't problematize the need that the fact that things come from overseas, that they come from bigger distances. They don't problematize globalization and further global interconnectedness per se. They problematize the issue of resource dependence. That's that they do. And also they see, but not in a negative way, as a positive way, the willingness to influence global supply chain. So they want to export the circular economy, but that was the case of 3 countries, France, Denmark, and Finland, I believe, that they see that promoting the circular economy within their countries and that also the European Union is an opportunity, but also they talk about the need to even set funds. Finland has set this fund called Sirtra, which they promote the World Circular Economy Foundation, and they aim to promote the circular economy as a global way to produce. And that's funded by the Finnish government and that's the political ambition that appears in their circular economy strategy. They want to promote the circular economy globally because they believe that this is the solution that needs to be done. But also it's a way to promote European way to do things, European solutions. And they mentioned that it's also a way to promote not also European technologies, but also European materials. Finland, no, all the Scandinavians, also Denmark and Sweden, were talking about the opportunities for them to export biomaterials and wood and other things they can produce to the world that can replace plastics. So for them, they see this as an opportunity. I guess that fits with what you say of globalization. Is this what you meant?
Yeah, the idea of the reinforce or not the external flows, the international flows of products and the components of the different value chains around in the different sectors. Then the idea is that when we think about circular economy, we think that the more global value chains are better, or to reduce the exuberance of the global value chain is a better solution, is a better way to solve the environmental problems. That is my question, is that we can find in the strategy some analysis or some propositions related to if more globalization or flows are good or not for the future of the environment and for the future of the economy of the European countries.
Okay. Yeah, in this sense, they don't politicize this a lot. They don't challenge this assumption. They don't talk against it. Neither they just don't politicize it. This is something as given for most policies. I think the Greek circular economy strategy discusses this a bit. It discusses the need to create a more local economy and the opportunities to do that for the Greek economy. The Greek circular economy strategy, besides that, is translated into English, so I invite everybody who wants to deepen their knowledge to really read it. They talk about the need for new, more local economical exchanges. So they talk about the need to set global, local opportunities for repairing products and more local opportunities to keep the value of the economy and what the economy producers to serve the people. They talk that a bit when they talk about the social dimension. The Greek circular economy talks a bit about that, but they are not challenging globalization as a whole. They just make some mentions in the sense that recycling can be a future economic activity for Greece. And also they were regretting a lot in Greece the economic crisis of 2008 and remembering the effects, and there's still a need for Greece to recover from that crisis. So they see the circular economy as a way to recover that. But they are not making this whole challenging of globalization as in big terms, as you say.
Yeah, but the question was just that was the question, and is related to the question by Blandine before. Is in the strategies the concept of proximity is important in the design of the circular economy strategies or not? The proximity could be regional or national, but the idea is in the European strategies, the designers are thinking about some way of relocalize activities in the countries, or that is not nothing, is something that have nothing to do with the circular economy. That was the question.
Yeah, I guess this is it's a difficult. There are some mentions to the need to relocalize some things, but also they talk to they don't talk always about this in rational terms, but they talk about the need to maintain materials within the economy. So when they talk about new activities like recycling, repairing, and so on, they mention that this is an opportunity for regional development too, but also an opportunity to maintain those precious materials within Europe. So not to lose those materials into a landfill, because Europe lacks such resources. So those mentions may be related to what you say. But okay. Yeah, they mention it in these terms. So
thank you.
Yeah, thanks to you.
Okay, are there other questions? Because we are heading to the end of but if there is another question or even two other questions, we can take them. No? If not, Blandine, do you want to add, maybe, yeah, I have so first, thank you to all of you. It was really an interesting webinar on a very interesting topic, not an easy one in terms of implementation. So thanks again. The next webinar will be next year in January 24th, and will be about Do It Together. It will be a special issue of the Journal of Innovation and Economics Management that was coordinated by Laurent Dupont and Fedwa Kasmi. And then we have another one in February, but we will talk about it next year. Blandine, do you want to add something about activities of the network?
Yes, thank you, Mireille, and also many thanks to Josep, and again to Angeles and Xavier for these presentations and the special issue we did together. Just to say one more word about the next General Assembly of the Research Network on Innovation, which will be on the 12th of December. So I just can share my screen just to show you the program. I think you are now seeing my screen. Yes, Mireille?
Yes, we see you.
Okay, so this is a program of the General Assembly and the Gala Innovation, when we have the possibility to join together after several years of COVID and online General Assembly. So this time it will be in Paris, but also online. So if you can still register to share with us this moment. We will give the bonus research network in innovation bonus and honoris causa prize for the PhD. So they are the main prizes that are given by the Research Network on Innovation for young researchers. And also we'll have a roundtable in the afternoon about research methodology and methods for innovation economics and management studies. So we are warmly invited to join us for this event. So you can register. So it's important to do that, to register, to be with us. It's a good way to have a general vision of all the activities we have in this research network, and perhaps to join us in the future.